Betsy Jones here from Austin, from John Galt's apartment, telling another bedtime story. It's kind of a sad one, so if you don't want to get depressed, skip this video, but it's going to make you think about life and love and things you care about. And you know, it's kind of like Campbell's soup or chicken soup for the pet lover's soul. They always had chicken soup for the whatever soul. You know those books? They were popular there for a while.
Sure.
That's kind of what I'm doing in blog form, video blog form. Well, I had this dog. His name was Rusty. He was a chocolate lab mixed with Weimaraner, and he had been dumped with a bunch of other puppies in a trash can in the good old city of Killeen, and my dad rescued him from the pound and brought him home. And this was right before we moved and bought a bunch of land for buckwheat, if you have seen my other video. We were still living in our house in Killeen when we got him, and my mom had a agility champion named Pirate. He was a Harlequin Great Dane. He's an agility champion in North Texas, and he's owned by a veterinarian who's a Dane breeder, and she doesn't do it to make money. She breeds Danes for quality, which is really good. She breeds Danes not to be tall, but to be strong and bulky and like durable, you know, flexible and good temperaments. And so my mom gets this like amazing Merle Great Dane, which is like the black with the Harlequin print over top of it, or not black, the gray with the Harlequin print over top of it, like kind of a blue color. You know those pretty Great Danes? Yeah. So it was one of those, and he had his ears cropped perfect. And him and Rusty used to get out underneath the fence where we lived there south of Killeen, and they would get underneath the fence. They took down a deer one time with our other Great Dane, Conan, who was also a rescue. He had been emaciated and left for dead, 75 pounds of this huge, tall Great Dane that was like a walking skeleton locked in a trailer. He came from a shitty home, and we raised him and made him fat, and he was fast as hell. And we actually had to amputate his tail because he'd wag his tail so much and crack it against the center of our house, which was fireplace and brick, that it kept splitting open. And because he had been so skinny for so long, his tail was like all bone still. He was still gaining the fat back on his tail. And we actually had to amputate his tail because his tail wouldn't heal up anymore. And we had to like put socks on it and try and bandage it up. And he was just a happy dog. He was happy to have a second chance at life. Anyway, so these dogs would get out and go frolic in our neighbor's 10 acres and chase a deer that would eat plums and eat my neighbor's garden, her flower garden. And so we moved to Rogers, which is right off of 75-mile-per-hour highway. And we have our backyard, and then behind that is our field where our horses are, where I have to go through that gate to go feed the horses. And it's the morning. And, you know, I'm used to getting up early in the morning in the dark, going out, feeding the horses, leaving the gates open because I'm just going real fast to throw some feed down, some hay down, and come right back to the gate and come back up to the house because nobody's going to let the dogs out because there's nobody home. And I know that the dogs aren't outside because I didn't let them outside and the door is closed. I know because I closed that door. So, you know, I go out to feed the horses, and I didn't remember that my mom was home, that she hadn't went to work that day to Austin. And so she woke up while I was out feeding the horses and let the dogs out. And by this point, I think Conan had died of old age already. But Rusty and Oscar, they take off, and because they saw an open gate, and they used to go get out of the gate, crawl underneath it, get under the fence, whatever, and they would go to our neighbor's yard because he had a stock tank, a pond, and they'd go play in it because it smelled bad, and that's what dogs do. They go have fun, and they'd go explore. Well, eventually they got bored with that, and this morning they decided they were going to go across the highway to play with the dogs across the highway. And I was supposed to go on a field trip that day with school with my aquatic science class, and I had baked cupcakes that morning too. I was all excited, and I'm coming up from feeding the horses, and I tell my mom, "Where are the dogs?" And she says, "Well, I let them out. Didn't you see them coming back through the yard?" And I say, "No, it's still kind of dark out." And the dogs had gotten out through the gate. Oscar, my mom's Great Dane, and Rusty, my lab mix, have gotten out, and we're looking for them. And I call out to my neighbor, who's getting ready to take her kid to school. Like, if you see the dog, let me know. Just tell us, okay? And we're chaotic because these dogs are like our babies. They're like our children. These are my brothers. These are my pack animals. I'm part of the pack. My parents are the alphas, and there's this level of respect there, and I'm above the dogs, and they treat me well because I'm part of their pack. I'm the dog's alpha, and these dogs are gone. And my mom is screaming and crying in German and punching me because this is her prized dog, and he's gone because I, for 1 second, left that gate open. For 1 second, I was lazy. I was irresponsible. I thought, I don't need to latch it. I'll be right back through the gate. Even though I had always been raised, close the gate every time. If the gate was closed, make sure it's closed when you're done. Always close gates. Always, always, always. And I should have known better. I learned it with horses. I mean, there's a 75-mile-per-hour highway right there. You've got to close the gates. And I was lazy for 1 second, and because of that, those dogs were out, and it's my fault. So my mom's freaking out. And the neighbor comes over to our house, to our driveway, and says, "The brown one's in the road." And I'm like excited. I'm happy. I'm like, yes, I'm relieved. My heart is like, okay, he's running in the road. And we get up to the highway, and Rusty is splattered across the highway. His bottom jaw from here down is in the middle of the highway. His paw, his front forepaw, is just laying scattered out in the highway. He's ripped apart. He's mutilated. And there's blood everywhere. His guts are just laying there in this sack of fur. He's not my dog anymore. He's not my friend. He's not my pack member. This isn't my brother anymore. This is a sack of blood and guts, and this is my fault. I just made this happen. I just killed my friend, my pack, my brother. I did this. Victoria, you did this. Betsy Jones, you did this. The girl who's making this video, this girl who's nobody, did this to this dog, killed this dog, ended his life. No, I wasn't the one driving the tractor trailer that hit him, but I left the gate open knowing full and goddamn well that this is a popular 18-wheeler highway that goes back and forth between Houston and Louisiana and whatever, and I know that this is a busy highway, and I was lazy, so lazy that I thought that it was okay. Even for just 2 minutes, it would be okay. And no, nothing's going to happen. Bad things aren't going to happen to me. I don't get unlucky. I'm always lucky. Everything's always cool. And so we decide we're going to go drive in the pasture and look for Oscar. There's still hope. We haven't seen Oscar yet. And we're driving slowly up and down the 75-mile-per-hour highway looking for Oscar, looking for a gray and black flash of fur and sparkly tags. We're looking for him. And we get stuck in this mud pit off the side of the road in this field, and we're stuck in a two-wheel drive truck and a big F-350 that's not 4x4 at all, and we're trying to move and we can't, and my flip-flops are breaking, the foam flip-flops are breaking underneath me as I'm slipping in the mud, trying to get gravel underneath the truck tires so that we can get out of this mud and keep looking for Oscar. And I have my field trip to go to, and I have my cupcakes, and I don't know what's going on. Is this real? Am I dreaming? What the fuck is going on? This can't be real. This can't be real. This is a really bad nightmare. This can't be real. And my mom's beating me, yelling at me, punching me while she's trying to get the truck unstuck. And I'm hitting myself, I'm crying, I'm not knowing what to do, how to react. What do I say? Do I keep my mouth shut? Do I cry? Do I scream? Do I have the authority to cry and scream when I caused this? Is it okay for me to mourn the loss of my friends that I killed? And so I already gave away the next part. We get out of the mud pit, and we start driving along the highway to go into town to get more gas so we can keep looking for him, because we didn't keep a lot of gas in that truck. It was just a farm truck. And as we're going into town, we see immediately on the right-hand side of the road, right off on the shoulder, right next to my mailbox, literally 20 feet from my mailbox, right off the highway, is my mom's Great Dane sprawled out completely still, as if nothing had happened, as if he was asleep. Just one clean hit right here on his shoulder put him out. Probably got hit as he was coming back, as we were calling, "Oscar, Rusty, puppies, come on, come on." As we're calling, They're coming back from across the street, from hanging out across the street. They're coming back. They're coming back to their owners. They're coming back. But Rusty is old, and he's an old chocolate lab with joint problems, and he's fat. He's like any other good fat dog. He wants to go have adventures, but he's fat and he's slow. And he's not like Oscar. He's not athletic. He can't keep up with this athletic Great Dane that does agility courses. He can't keep up. His joints are giving him problems, and he gets smashed by an 18-wheeler at 75 miles an hour. Smashed. This 18-wheeler is just come over a hill and is at the bottom of the hill where our property flattens out. He's getting to the bottom of the hill and smash, kills Rusty. He's splattered everywhere. He's not Rusty anymore. He's a carcass. He's gone. He is gone. The dog as I knew him is gone. My friend is gone. And now Oscar is sprawled out. And I stay in the truck. My mom's pulled over on the shoulder, and I stay in the truck shaking and crying and not knowing what to say, and I'm watching her desperately, desperation in my eyes. God, tell me he's alive. Tell me he's alive. His chest is moving. I'm not just making things up. I see his chest moving. I know his chest is moving. He's breathing. He's breathing. And my mom squats down next to him and gets real close to him and puts her ear to his chest and listens and feels him and feels for a pulse. And she lets out this blood-curdling scream just of agony, just like as loud as you can imagine. Like, they must have heard it in the town over. Just absolute tragedy, like as if her child had died, her baby that she raised, that she did everything perfect for. She never let him have chocolate M&Ms because she let him have chocolate M&Ms because she had lost dogs early in their lives before, and she wanted him to live life to the fullest, and she'd sneak him M&Ms, and he'd carefully take them with his big Great Dane gums, just real careful, just take the M&M real careful from you, and loved you to death. And he was the schnoog, that's what she called him, the schnoogie, and he would cuddle with her on the couch. And Rusty was my pal. He slept with me and would get on my bed, and he was always there for my adventures and always there to greet me, and always just this big dumb smile on his face. And Oscar had this awesome personality where he just like was chill. He was just chill and happy and just living life and loving it, and really friendly and outgoing. He was a real people person and social butterfly, and for the most part, except for the trailer trash across the street that raped me, that Oscar actually bit the trailer trash that raped me before he raped me. He knew that he was a bad guy. He knew he was a shithole. He sensed it. That dog knew everything. He had my back. And I just killed him. I just killed Oscar. I just killed Rusty. They're both dead in front of me on the highway. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? My mom can't do anything. She can't do anything. She's frozen. She's paralyzed with anxiety, fear, and absolute loss and grieving and anger at her daughter. How could she do this? How could she kill her siblings? How could she be so reckless and just put their lives in the trash can, just completely throw away their lives and throw away these perfect creatures that have been on this earth for so many years and enjoyed life? Not even that many years. They were still so young. They still had time left. They still had dog memories to make and dog friends to make and adventures to put in their little books that, you know, they would tell their puppies someday, or other dogs, you know, when they're old dogs. Oh, remember when we used to go do this and that? Yeah, that was fun. Their books were full. That was it. I closed their books for them. I left their books unwritten because of something I did, and those dogs are gone, and I can't do anything. I can't wake up. This isn't a dream. This is real. My dogs just died because of something I did. My friends died because of something I did, or actually something I didn't do. My neglect. So I guess that is something I did. Neglecting closing the gate. But I still have an aquatic science thing to go to. I still have a field trip. I'm still so self-absorbed at 16 years old. All I give a shit about is getting to school, getting away from the drama, getting away from the chaos of watching my friends die, of my mom suffering, and me inflicting this pain on my mother and inflicting this suffering, putting a knife in her chest. I just did that. And I'm too busy and too self-obsessed and self-absorbed to care. And I run away to school, and I call my vice principal, who has a big heart for me. She sees something special in me. She's still my Facebook friend to this day. She saw something special in me, and we would hang out. She liked Great Danes too. She picked me up and put me in the principal's office, and I was supposed to wait there until the field trip, and then I would just get on the bus. And my dad, meanwhile, has been called by my mom. He's in Austin at work, and she calls him and says, you know, let's just make up a name, Joe. Joe is my dad's name. Joe, come home. It's Oscar and Rusty. They're dead. And he's hauling ass home from Austin because his wife is absolutely losing it, like panic attack to the extreme, just like dying. He's like hearing her die on the other end of the phone with her children that just passed away. And she's still in shock. We're all still in shock. And I'm frozen in the principal's office. And my principal gets a phone call from my dad on his cell phone saying, you keep my daughter there. You keep my daughter there. You are not letting her go on this field trip. And the principal's arguing with my dad like he has some kind of authority over the student, which at the end of the day is a child and is her parents' property, for that matter, until she's 18, is part of their entity, part of who they are and what they're creating. And so he says, you know, keep her there, I'm coming to pick her up. And my dad picks me up, and I don't want to get into his car. I don't want to get into his car. I don't want to drive down that side of the highway and see my dead friends again. I don't want to see that. I do not want to go look at it. I do not want to see those dead carcasses staring up at me, or whatever, their heads just staring at me, haunting me, and begging with their eyes, why did you do this to us, Betsy? Why did you do this to us? Why did you let us down? And your mom screaming and looking at you like you were not even looking at you. She won't even look at you, because if she looks at you, she's just going to scream at you and hit you and cuss you out because of what you just did and what pain you were causing her. The active twisting of a knife you're doing in her chest. And my dad says, you're going to take care of this. You're going to do the right thing. And he gets on his little Mahindra tractor with me, and we get the front loader scoop on there, and he takes his tractor out off the pasture onto the highway. 18-wheelers are zooming by in both directions, and my dad puts the bucket up underneath Rusty's body and starts moving it, and he says, go pick him up, go pick him up, go put him in the bucket. And I get down from this tractor, timid, 16, muscular as hell, but God, I feel so small right now. I feel like an ant. I'm nothing. I am this piece of shit daughter. I am this miserable excuse for a packmate. I'm this miserable excuse for a living being at this point. And I'm lifting his carcass. His guts are falling out, and I'm lifting his guts and putting him in this tractor bucket. And there's blood everywhere, and I can't leave behind his forearm that's in the road. That's part of him too. And I can't leave behind his jaw, his bottom half of his jaw. I can't leave that behind in the road. Tractor trailers keep coming by and hitting the guts, and the guts are splattering, and I can't let my dog rot there. I need to be a responsible owner. I need to go pick up my friend, the remains of what was once my good friend. I need to go pick it up. I owe it to him out of respect for who he was, for who Rusty the dog was. I owe it to him to pick up every piece of him and give him a proper burial. And my dad digs this huge trench outside my bedroom window looking over the hayfield, and there's this huge mound now there where Oscar and Rusty now are. And I had to put his guts in this huge trench we dug about 8 feet deep because coyotes are bad out there. And I'm in the ground with my dog's friends in my arms, intestines, guts hanging out, chunks of thin flesh with muscle on it and fur, kind of like when you skin a deer. It's like that, flaps of skin, just nothing. You can't associate with it as another living being. You have to look at it as just guts, as just raw organ, because that's all he is at this point. He's not Rusty anymore. He's not your friend. He's a dead mass of organs, of tissue that is dying, decaying right in front of your eyes, in your hands. And when you're done putting him in there, your dad and you get back on the tractor and you ride up over to Oscar and you get in the median with your tractor, and he lowers the bucket up in front of Oscar. And I weighed about 120 pounds at this point. That dog weighed every bit of that and more. He was a big Great Dane. He was muscular. He had real strong thighs and muscles, which was good. That meant he should have lived a long time, which is rare for a Great Dane. But because of his excellent breeding, this dog could have lived to be 13 years old, like some of our Great Danes have before, I think. Somewhere close to that. I think Conan was 13, the rescue. Oscar had the rest of his life ahead of him. He had spoiling. He was going to have ice cream with my mom and eat M&Ms on her lap on the couch and be spoiled and be loved. And I cut that short, and I have to hoist this dog, shoving him bit by bit because he's so heavy and he's flat and sprawled out on the ground, and he's still loose and limp. So it's just this limp mass of your friend that you're dead, that's just staring up at you, poop all over himself because his guts exploded on impact, and he pooped himself as he got hit by this tractor trailer that hit him, I'm assuming, on his shoulder, and just internal hemorrhaging just that fast. It was fast. That's the only good thing for him and Rusty both, I think. It was a fast, very fast, painless death, instant, and at least that's what I tell myself to deal with the guilt, I guess. And I scoop his limp body into the tractor, and his poop is all over me and my hands and all over his fur and his body, and I'm trying to get the poop off of him because I don't want to ruin his image, the image of this angel of a dog that had a life ended so early. And I bury him with Rusty, and I looked out my window and I saw that every night when I was sneaking out of my bedroom window to go hang out with the guys across the street, and putting myself in a situation where I inevitably got raped because I put myself in a shitty situation. Again, taking responsibility for my own actions. I put myself in both of these situations because of a neglect to follow the rules. Close the gate when your parents tell you to close the gate. Close the gate every damn time, because you do not know when you are going to end somebody's life. Whether a horse gets out and kills somebody because somebody drove into it because they didn't see it because they were texting like you do in your car, or changing the radio station like you're doing, and you're just watching a video and, oh, all of a sudden you're dead because somebody didn't close the gate. Or you're raped because you snuck out and put yourself in a situation where you were alone with some freak, mental handicapped, anger management issues, backwoods redneck rapist in his trailer. You put yourself in that situation, girl. You did that to yourself. And accept it, move on. It was a shitty thing, and that's how I feel about the dogs. It was absolutely shitty. People thought my dad was a monster. They thought he was evil for making me do that, for making me pick up the remains of my friends. My dad, what kind of sick freak does that? What kind of sick freak makes his 16-year-old daughter pick up the remains of dead dogs and bury them outside her window? What a demented, twisted freak, right? But you're wrong, because that made me who I am today. That made me a better person, and I'll tell you what, I've never once not closed a gate since then. I follow the rules that are put there for a reason, and those are some rules that were put there for a reason. Close the gate. And it's not some obligatory rule like you can't turn left at this light unless, you know, there's a light protecting it, even though you can see there's nobody there and it's midnight and there's nobody on the road anyway, and you should be able to turn, but it's illegal to turn. But anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. But that's the story of Oscar and Rusty, my pack mates, my friends, who I tragically killed at the ripe age of 16, and I regret it, but I'm very happy that my father made me live with the consequences and face full responsibility for something I caused. And I thank my dad, and I love my dad so much more for that. And he's going to see the same kind of responsibility and discipline in my daughter when I raise her, because I'm going to instill those same values in her. And I love my parents that much more for it. And my mom has since, she still cries when she thinks about Oscar and Rusty, as I often do, as my dad even does. As big of a guy as he is, as hard of an ass as he is, he's still, that's the soft spot, that and buckwheat. And maybe my wreck, maybe, I don't know. Or what I became afterwards. But yeah, that's the sad little story of Oscar and Rusty and how Betsy Jones killed them. But you know, it happened, it sucked, but it's over and done with. It's in the past. I learned from it. I took something valuable from it because I chose to take something valuable from it. I chose to accept that what my dad did was right and was actually very smart and courageous of him to do as well. That took a lot of balls for him to make his 16-year-old daughter pick up her dog's dead body when he could have just called Bell County Animal Control and had them come pick up the remains or whatever. You know, that took some balls. And I commend my dad for it. And it took some balls for my mom to not shoot me. And it took some balls for my parents to get past that. And for my mom to get a new Great Dane that she now is loving and spoiling. And he's 7 years old, at least. He's an old dog now. But he is spoiled as hell because she never knows when she's going to lose him. And she loves on that dog. And he's epileptic. And she pays for his seizure medication and takes good care of him. And had to have his tail amputated for the same reason as the other one. He started getting skinny in his old age. And his tail was getting real bony and cracking open because he's kind of a duttara and he just wags his tail happily all the time and doesn't realize it's bleeding, you know. So, but she's moved on in a way, in the same way that myself and my father have. She's moved on in a positive manner. And if there's anything to be said for this story, it's that everything shitty that happens to you in your life can be a positive thing if you make it positive. If you want to make something great out of a shitty situation, you can do it. You just have to draw the right way from it. You have to pull from it in a certain way and look at it in the right perspective, the right mind frame. And frame of mind. Isn't that a book by like Dean Koontz, Mind Frame? James Patterson? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, turn your positives or turn your negatives into positives and turn your life experiences into living life.